Here you go, friend.
Thanks. Cool costume.
Thanks. My mom made it for me.
I just wish you could all see the Earth the way that I see it. Because when you really look at it, it's just one world.
What's the S stand for?
It's not an S. In my world, it means hope.
Hello everyone, thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books, I love talking about them, I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the DC fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for these issues. So we're going to be looking at two issues here. Action Comics 592 and 593 from 1987, written and penciled by John Byrne. Really inked because he does the figure inking. And we're going to have Superman and Barda in the first one and Superman and Mr. Miracle on the second one. And Action Comics during Byrne's tenure was sort of like, if you remember, DC Comics Presents, and it was Superman and somebody else. It just always featured a guest star. So, because DC Comics Presents had been canceled, so DC just Byrne wanted to do those kind of stories, and DC let him. So it is such a shame that there was so much friction between John Byrne and DC editorial, because what could have been if DC would have just let John Byrne cook. But it is what it is. But this is a pretty good story. So here we go. Barda says, "Back off, Superman. The creature called Sleaze must die." And Superman says, "Then you'll have to kill me first, Barda." And so we got our look here at our bad guy here. John Byrne is a great storyteller. He is absolutely one of my favorites. He has a deep love and respect for all things of Jack Kirby. He not only brings the fourth world with him into the Superman universe, but when he took over Wonder Woman, he brings that with him. So big Jack Kirby fan our John Byrne is. And so we start here how we see Big Barda here, and she's wearing a sports bra and jogging stuff, and I don't remember in the 80s women kind of wearing this. Now they wear like this all the time, but back then I don't think so. But anyway, John Byrne narrates here. "It was a simple enough mistake, the kind of mistake almost anyone would have made. A right turn instead of left. Easily noticed, easily rectified. Not at all the sort of thing you'd expect to lead you into." And so, notice no backgrounds, but John Byrne doesn't skimp on backgrounds here. And we get this beautiful double page spread here. A walk on the dark side. And look at this background here. This is just really cool looking. We got a pimp, got some prostitutes here. We've got John Byrne. Look at this, a lady in here. This guy is a spectacular here. And so Barda says, "What manner of place is this?" she thinks. And look at this guy. Woo-wee. "I'd hoped to have seen the last of such hellholes from when I departed from Apocalypse." And so story pencils and figure inks John Byrne, background inks Keith Williams. What figure inks means is John Byrne is inking the characters, and Keith Williams is inking all the backgrounds. So exactly what that means is, so everything you see here is really John Byrne putting it in, and basically you could almost say it's inking assistance here. So, and on the credits, Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster's, but Big Barda created by Jack Kirby here. So all right, so you can see like a slum here in the beautiful metropolis here. And so Barda goes, I can hardly believe such squalor exists in the very heart of Metropolis. This is a place much better suited for the shadows near the fire pits of my home planet, meaning Apocalypse. And the pimp goes, hey, big mama. And she's like, you blocked my path, stranger. And he says, who's your old man, sweetcase? Whoever he is, he ain't paying you enough, meaning who's her pimp. You come work for the fancy man, babe? I'll make you rich. That's awesome, the fancy man. And so she says, your speech is strange, friend. Can you not state your meaning more clearly? And she's like, whoa, talk about strange speech. Where'd you pick that funky accent, big mama? Come tell the fancy man all about it, fancy man. So, and she tosses him. Big Barda is one of my favorite characters, and I absolutely adore her costume. Adore it, adore it, adore it. I've always thought of Gina Carano being Big Barda here. The black hair, she's just a powerhouse. And so she goes, insolent dog, only one man may touch Big Barda, only. And then this guy grabs her purse here. A purse snatcher, he's got my bag. And with it, my mega rod. So she's going to go after them, skips over the other guy here. And this lady here says, fancy man, who was that? And he goes, do know, but that cut purse just snatched her bag, just made the biggest mistake of his miserable life. And he's like, she's coming after me. Who's this crazy broad? And so he's going to try and get away. But she is, look at this. She just tears it. She's super powerful. And so he's going through and going down the sewers, which is just horrible. In comic books, I don't know. They go down the sewers. Yuck, disgusting. And so he's like, oh my God. And then you see here some kind of tentacled creature snatches him and he goes off. And look at all this. Ugh. Sewers. Ugh. And look at him. What have you caught, little friend? Let me see. And he goes, a common thief. How disappointing. Perhaps his prize will contain. And then he looks at it. He goes, a mega rod. So he knows exactly what he is. He stole this from a native of Apocalypse. Perhaps someone who is still close by. As close as my hour of vengeance. So, I love me some John Byrne here. So she's going through and he goes, he is near me. I can almost smell him. Smell him? How can you smell anything with all this? Oh, this is so disgusting. And so she's being attacked by the Mega Rod here. And so she touches this bracelet here and in comes her costume here. Now, this is not hair. This is a helmet, which is absolutely awesome here. And so she goes, with my body armor activated, I'm nearly invulnerable. Now, where is he? And so continues to try, and she evades it here. And our character here says, you seek the scoundrel who stole your bag, Big Barda? He goes, there he is. And so the guy's right there. And now as he hits her, oh no, the corpse distracted me. So our guy here, we saw his name on the cover. Was it oh my God, Sleaze? And so Sleaze says, and thus she falls, and my schemes are enriched. For more years than I can count, I have been on this planet, abandoned by great Darkside, left to rot on a primitive little world at the edge of nowhere. Great splash page here. But now at long last, the fates have recharged my patience. They have set me the perfect bait for my trap. An officer of Darkside's own elite guard. Now, here's the funny thing, is that Big Barda is no longer with Darkside. She made a face turn. So 2 days later, we see Clark Kent here meeting with this doctor here. And the doctor says, glad you could come, Mr. Kent. Your support of your The support of your newspaper could work miracles here. And Clark says, the Daily Planet has a long history of helping the needy. Dr. Kincaid, who are these people? And Dr. Kincaid says, very special cases, Mr. Kent. People from the very dregs of life. People with no hope for tomorrow. The outcasts of Suicide Slum. So Suicide Slum is in a poor area of Metropolis. And every city has a poor area, even Metropolis, even with the great Superman. So Los Angeles has Skid Row. New York, it depends, because a lot of areas in New York have been cleaned up. So it changes, but every area in New York probably has a seedy side. So it just kind of depends. But Clark Kent thinks here, 2 words that will always be thorns in my side. When I first came to Metropolis, I tried to clean up Suicide Slum. I failed. Well, part of the reason is because poverty always exists. It doesn't matter, man. Life is unfair. Okay, so I'm gonna get on a short little tangent here, but very short here. Poverty exists. Poverty will always exist. Human beings are selfish creatures, and while you have selfishness with some people wanting more and more, unfortunately, if someone has more, then someone else is going to have less. That is how it works. And by the way, communism doesn't cure that. There's nothing that can be done. Human beings are the way they are, and most people are only concerned about themselves. Unfortunately, not everybody, but a lot of people are concerned about themselves. Thus, you get these things. So it is an epidemic of being alive. So poverty is something that is always going to be with us. Always, always, always. There's those who have a lot, and then there's those who have little. And that's just how it works. Those that have a lot want more, and so they take and take and take. And then there's the ones in the middle. You could probably say the middle class, and they're striving for more as well. So you have a lot of stuff, and as and that's just the way of economics. And as people strive to get more, unfortunately, this is what happens. So. All right, I'm done. So, and so Clark Kent continues thinking, there are tasks too great even for me, even for Superman. And this guy says, this is our most interesting guest, Mr. Kent. How are you today, Molly? And she says, fine, thank you, doctor. Who is this? And, actually, she's saying, whose is? And Clark Kent introduces himself. He says, how did you find living here, Molly? Are you comfortable? And she goes, Clark Trent. I know at name. I heard it somewhere once. It sounds almost like she's from Louisiana. And the doctor says, I'm afraid you won't get much way of a coherent conversation from Molly, Mr. Kent. She's pretty far gone. As you can see, she's already oblivious to us. Nothing holds her attention, so she probably has dementia. And Superman says, what makes her of particular interest, Doctor? And the doctor says, take a good look at her, Mr. Kent. She's a fairly typical example of what we get here. Old disease, riddled with sores, infested with parasites before we cleaned her up. Typical. Except that among her few belongings, we found a copy of her birth certificate. And she says, Molly was born in 1866, Mr. Kent. She's 121 years old. And Superman says, what? But for someone in her condition, such advanced age is impossible, isn't it? And the doctor says, until I met Molly, I'd have said so. But without hesitation, but there's more. She's the most amazing example. And so the doctor continues, but Mr. Lucas in bed 5 claims to be over 90. Mr. Fine, is in number 3 is 87. All the patients in this ward are well over the national average lifespan, but not one of them is any better physical condition than Molly. By all rights, they should all be dead. And Clark Kent says, "Can you explain that, doctor?" And he says, "Found on you, snake oil. I don't know, Mr. Kent. The only answer seems to be that something is keeping them alive." And so Superman says, "Keeping, yes. Fascinating. My super sensitive vision, that I think they used to call it X-ray vision, detects traces of radiation in these poor wretches. It's strongest in Molly, but it's a radiation unlike any I've ever encountered." And he says, "Well, thanks for the guided tour, Dr. Kincaid. I'll be sure to give the clinic a glowing report in my next column." And he says, "Thank you, Mr. Kent." And he says, "You'll forgive me if I don't escort you all the way downstairs. I must get back to my patients." And he says, "I quite understand. In fact, I welcome the chance to be alone. It affords me the opportunity to investigate this matter more closely, but not as Clark Kent." And I love this as you see him transform here into Superman. So John Byrne drew a beautiful Superman. So here he goes. There's Suicide Slum. 10 blocks of concentrated poverty and worse. The people who live here aren't just poor. They're more than their wallets are empty. They're the forgotten ones, the ones who've lost the game of life, the ones who had every scrap of hope ground of them. At last count, the population of Suicide Slum was something like 5,000 men and women. That's barely 1/12 of 1% of the 10 million souls who call Metropolis home. Statistics like that can be dangerous. They tend to diminish the problem, make it sound less of a tragedy. Now, that very interesting. I'm detecting traces of the same peculiar radiation all through this area. So we know what that means. Real quick, and it's going to be just because John Byrne is trying to make a point about the poverty here. It doesn't matter whether, it's right-wing government or left-wing government. And California is a left-wing government, and they have a ton of poverty. New York is a left-wing government. They still have a lot of poverty. Alabama, Mississippi, they're right-wing governments. There's a lot of poverty. There's poverty everywhere. Nebraska is a Republican state, and there is poverty in all the cities and all. There's South Dakota. It doesn't matter, man. Politics, they don't matter. And like I mentioned, it's humans and human beings being human. And until human beings put others and strive for something better, this is always going to be this way. But unfortunately, that's not the way we're wired. Unfortunately, we're wired for us. We are, for the most part, selfish creatures. So it's never going to stop here. So, all right, back off. And so he goes, where can it be coming from? And so here we go, Big Barda, and dressed in something skimpy. Oh my God, dancing in the freaking sewers. Goodness gracious. And he goes, dance for me, pretty, dance for sleaze. Ugh, yuck. And so he goes, ha ha ha, how perfect, how absolutely perfect. I was driven from my native world because the great Darkside judged me too disgusted even for the blackest of corners of apocalypse. Now, one of those who condemned me has hastened the coming of my escape. So, he was so bad that even Darkside sent him away. So, oh my goodness gracious. Even Darkside was appalled by him. So, and so she said, sleaze, and he says, you speak. Your strength of will is great, indeed, daughter of Apocalypse. And she goes, who are you? I've never heard of the name of Sleaze spoken on Apocalypse. And he says, perhaps not. It has been so very long. And my fall was so complete, so utterly without hope or redemption, but I remember. All those centuries past, the twin worlds of New Genesis and Apocalypse, home to a race of beings so advanced they dared think of themselves as gods. New Genesis, the bright world, always sunshine, always in joy. Apocalypse, her dark sister, where love dies and grief is every man's a shadow. In the sweltering darkness of the lowest levels of the world, I first came to self-awareness. I lived, I thought, I knew I had power. Power enough to bring me under the watchful eye of Darkside. A young Darkside then, not yet master of either Apocalypse or his own dark powers. He made me his servant, his aide, even his counselor. We learned much from each other, much of the hidden face of humanity. Darkside pointed out to me the pathways to realms where my power burned bright. But there came a time of change. Petty cruelties amused him less and less. His mind turned to the greater workings of the universe. I fell from favor. So you can see here, he's got some dude. On that day, was I the first to know the touch of Darkside's omega beams. For an instant that seemed an eternity, I was less than nothing. But I was not destroyed. Instead, I found myself transported, hurled across time and space to a lost corner of the cosmos called Earth. And here I stayed, waiting through the long march of years. So you can see here that it's probably the 1800s or 1700s, probably the 1800s. So waiting for the wheel of fortune to turn my way again. And now it has. For with you as my captive and the mega rod in hand, nothing can stand against me, nothing. And she's like, no, please, not again. So, hey there, fella. He goes, hey, you're not paying attention. The lady said no, and Superman tosses her. Of course, she calls out to him. You have me at a disadvantage, miss. I don't think I know you, unless you're Wonder Woman under all that glop. And she says, no, I'm called Big Barda, Superman. Barda, the wife of Scott-Free, Mr. Miracle. And she says the same. Now, if you will excuse me for a moment, Superman, our sudden intrusion has broken Sleaze's mind control. I am free of his power. She grabs the rod. Free to act, as she is once again on her armor. And Superman's like, wow. And so she tries to kill him here. Now, Sleaze, it's time for you to pay. Pay for the indignities which you heaped upon me in the past 2 days. And he gets out of the way, and Superman tries to stop her. Remember, Superman does not kill. And he says, Barda, no. Superman, you stop me. And he says, I have to, Barda. There's more to all this than you can understand. And Barda says, indeed there must be. If you are also a pawn of Sleaze, but I should have guessed. And she flips him over. Sleaze learned such much at Darkside's right hand. Your rescue was too convenient, Superman. I see you now for what you are. As she blasts him here, and look at the Kirby dots here, and right here as well. You're another part of Sleaze's plan to break my will, she says. But the full force of my mega rod would fell even the real Superman. He's like, Barda, no, oof, as she hits him here. But it will not work. Barda will not be broken, as we see a fallen Superman here. Barda shall wield the killing blow. But that tentacle creature takes away, and Sleaze says, I think not, my pretty. And now he gets a lever here, brings it down, which opens this. It's a lot of traps for us, friggin' subway, or not a subway, a sewer here. And you see that they have both fallen here, and Sleaze laughs. And so we're gonna now conclude with 593. This now has Mr. Miracle here, great cover, and Superman and my wife, as these two are making out. Great cover. pretty cool here. So we start out with Mr. Miracle here pressing a button. He goes, "Stopwatch ready?" And Oberon says, "Ready." Timer activated, 9 seconds to detonation. And so he does. You see the countdown here from Oberon and Mr. Miracle doing something. 7, 6, and you can see Mr. Miracle pulling this. 5, 4, and he gets the key. 3, and he opens the door. And so that's all just to get home. So, and Mr. Miracle says, "Hi, honey, we're home," as he walks in the door with Oberon, and he says, "Barda?" And here we have Darkside, the Suicide Snare. Again, story pencils and figure inks, John Byrne, and Keith Williams background inks. So, Darkside says she's not here. Look at this. The TV, the cable box, oh my God, John Byrne, the detail. And so look at Oberon, Scott. And so, "Darkside, you swine, what have you done with my wife?" And Darkside says, look at that, Darkside drinking some wine here. Ugh. At least nothing directly, says Darkside. However, Big Barda is in dire straits and would not be but for my actions. Why does he care? And Oberon says, "Spare us the riddle, Stoneface. If you came here to say something, say it." And Darkside says, "Look at it. You are as feisty as ever, Oberon. Good. As long as you continue to amuse me, I shall continue to let you live." And look at this. He gives Scott a videotape. "Now, as to the matter at hand, this will answer at least some of your questions." And so he puts it in the VCR player. Oh my God. "Play it, Scott. Let's see what he's on about," says Oberon. "All right. Well, all right. But be ready to shield your eyes at the moment's notice, Oberon. This could be one of Darkside's mind trappers. I doubt it." And he's watching it here. And suddenly, and the same thing with, he's like, "What is in that tape? Can't say much for the production value. It looks like it was shot in a sewer. Scott, is that Barda?" "It is. I hardly recognize her under that awful makeup. What's she?" And then she's like, "Scott." And Darkseid says, "My agents acquired this televisual feast from a small shop in Metropolis, a shop which specializes in such fare." Not porn. "It is located on a back street called Hobbs Lane." Hobbs that's right on the edge of Suicide Slum, the dirtiest, most dangerous area in all of Metropolis. And Barda is there? Why? How? And what's your part in this? And Darkseid says, "Calm yourself, Scot-free. Such rampant emotion will not help your wife." Oh, goodness. And so, here we got this guy here, kind of, he makes, adult film. And so, "Hey, Mr. Smith, I was just thinking about you. Where are you, Grossman?" I like that name here. And so it looks like they're selling a lot of copies. And he's like, "I'm going to make me $1 million. And he says, "Don't you mean we, Mr. Grossman?" And he's like, "Sure." It was a slip on the tongue here. And so now he's bringing him Superman. Superman is also now under Sleaze's control. So they're going to make a sex tape with Big Barda and Superman. Is this not funny? So, all right. And he's like, "Whoa." And so he lets him know he's completely within my power. And what are you talking about, Smith? Unless, I should have guessed. This ain't really Superman. And so he's going to give him a demonstration here. And Superman destroys his desk here. And I take it you're convinced. You can imagine then the profits to be made out of the proper exploitation. You mean I can use Superman in my videos? I like your thinking, Mr. Smith. If this really is Superman, how do you control him? An unimportant detail, Grossman. You do not need to know any more than you already do. That will be enough to make the money I need to forge my army. And he says, Army, huh? I don't know what your game is, Smith, but I think you're overlooking something. There ain't much market for solo acts. Any coaster is going to wind up looking like my desk. And he says, you forget, Grossman, I already acquired the perfect co-star for the Man of Steel. The one and only Big Barda. So, yeah. And by the way, real quick here, this is why I have a problem with Superman's marriage to Lois Lane. Superman's Superman. I mean, what does this poor guy do? Oh my God. Superhumans being with normal humans is not, I don't think it's good. It's part of the reason why I'm okay that Spider-Man and Mary Jane aren't together anymore. But I don't like Superman with Lois. I really do not. I think Superman, there's plenty of love interests that could be superpowered people that could be with Superman if they truly wanted to. So, but anyway, we've got Big Barda here. And so we've got Mr. Miracle looking for Big Barda here. And so we're now going to get a little bit of his origin here. And so he thinks this could be a trap, but he says this isn't too subtle. I learned well the ways of Darkside, raised as I was in Granny Goodness Orphanage on the planet Apocalypse. Granny's job was to grind all sensitive individuals out of those chosen to become Darkside shock troopers, young boys like I was then. She did her job well. I might have been crushed, but for a surprising turn in my regimented life. And so we see this guy here named Hyman. He was an escape artist, and so he rescued Scott. And he taught me much of what he knew, including the wonders of Motherbox, the living computer. It was while I was with Hyman that I first met a certain brash and beautiful soldier of Darkside's forces. Hyman taught me the truth behind the lies of Granny Goodness. One day I made my escape with unexpected help. Barda, what are you doing? What you're doing is unheard of. Why are you helping me? Because I like to help fools, she says. Darkseid himself tried to stop me. Stay, warrior, let me complete the destruction of Scot-Free so that you may live with the majesty that is the power of Darkseid. But I have words of my own. Let me be scot-free and find myself. And so I escaped to Earth, and there I met a pair of most remarkable men, Thaddeus Brown, the original Mr. Miracle, and his assistant and closest friend, Oberon. Then, when Thaddeus Brown was murdered under the orders of a gangster known as Steel Hand, and there he is, shot, I assumed the identity of Mr. Miracle, and it's been one adventure after another ever since, including the day I married Barda. And so, Darkseid's managed to disrupt, though not prevent, even my wedding day. And now, out of the goodness of his heart, he comes to tell me Barda is in awful trouble. Is it any wonder I smell a very large rat? Motherbox senses no immediate danger. I wonder. And so he's attacked by these people from Suicide Slum here. And they chain him up and send him to a dumpster and toss him, and then they fill it up with garbage. And so, weld the lid shut, for no reason, down to the water. This is very comic book, and throw him in. And so we're like, how is Scott gonna escape? And then we don't know, but he's out. So all that was just done to show that he is the world's greatest escape artist. And so, all right. And so he's going to go here, and they're trying to make the sex tape. And he's like, I want passion. I want raw emotion. Superman's got the sex appeal of a side of beef. Smith, what's wrong with him? And he says he's resisting me. And he thinks here, I had not anticipated this. As a person under hypnosis cannot be compelled to do anything they would not normally do. Superman's strong moral fiber is making him resistant to my power. That makes my conquest of him only more desirable. I must break his will. I shall break his will. I am an empath. I feed on the emotions of others, the base emotions, the dark hidden depravity buried deep in the core of every human soul. I draw it out, that hidden self. With my psychic power, I am able to fan that flicker spark into a flame, a conflagrate, whatever that word is. And the greater the depth of depravity, the more food for me. And to corrupt one as pure and noble as Superman would provide me with a banquet, a feast. And he finds Barda with Superman here. With Superman, what's going on? The video suggests this is where the other tape of Barda was made. But who's the little guy in the hat? He's no Earthling, that's for sure. No good wondering about it. Things are about to go too far down there. And so he breaks through here. And look at that. And so, of course, he recognizes. Now, he shouldn't recognize Mr. Miracle because I don't think Mr. Miracle was around when he was there. So, anyway, but you can't be here. I instructed my army how to dispose of you. How could you survive? You forget surviving is what I do for a living, little friend. And so now we get how he got out here. It was easy to roll with your goons' attacks. I was still conscious when they tossed me into that dumpster. So all I needed was a cutting laser of my multi-tube. And the light of the welding torch hid the signs of my cutting out of your third-rate trap. Clever, Miracle, but not clever enough. I can still control you with my mental powers, he says. And Mr. Miracle says, wrong again. Granny trained us cadets to resist any mind control less powerful than Darkside's own. And Sleaze says, bah, I'll waste no more time with this. Grossman delayed him, and he's like, what? No, you don't, little man. I'm not finished with. And then he's attacked by that tentacle creature here. And an ash crawler, a creature from the fire pits of Apocalypse. It's as strong as 10 men. I don't know if I can. And suddenly he's taken out. And look at Barda. And she puts her hand in there and squeezes something. And you can see this squelch. And she kills it. Look at that. And you can see it here. So, Barda's so cool here. Barda, as usual, that was magnificent. Wouldn't you say so, Superman? Superman, he's gone. While I killed the ash crawler. Gone after Sleaze. Sleaze, asked Mr. Miracle here. And so Superman, blast! These older sewers are a rat's nest of pipes. Lead pipes. They're screwing up my x-ray vision in the worst way. But my other senses are still functioning. I can track Sleaze by smell. Again! It's a sewer! What smell? Oh! And so he catches Sleaze here. And he says, you don't have Barda's Mega Rod to knock me out. In conscience, I'm more than a match for your psychic powers. And he says, perhaps, Kryptonian, but are you a match for a match? And he uses it, of course. There's methane and all that stuff in the sewers. And this is a great panel here. After he's been with all the backgrounds here, suddenly, boom, Great Scott, and his hair and cape are singed. And so, Barda says, so you like the suicide over capture? Amazing. And a trifle frustrating. And Superman says, yes. His magic ignited all the gases from the decomposing sewage. The blast blew off manhole covers all over Suicide Slum. And Scott says, well, I suppose Darkside will be pleased. According to what Sleaze told Barda, he used to be Darkside's henchman until he fell from favor until he fell from favor and Darkside banished him to Earth. I guess that's why Darkside got in touch with me, to make sure we finish the job. couldn't be bothered with it himself. And Barda says, that explains how you came to find me, Scott. But Superman, you tried to stop me from attacking Sleaze when you first arrived. Why? And Superman says, I'm afraid I can't really give you an answer on that one, Barda. You'll just have to take my word for it that my actions were well-intentioned. And Mr. Miracle says, I guess we can do that, Superman. But, Barda, my memory of what happened while we were under Sleaze's control is foggy. But it seems you and I, and she says, say no more, Superman. My recollection is as clouded as your own. I think for the best we leave it that way. And he says, perhaps you're right. Goodbye, Barda. Miracle. And she says, Superman and Mr. Miracle, until we meet again. Oh, how wholesome. They're like, whatever. We were hooking up, but it's... And so we get to the last page here. I couldn't tell Scott and Barda the whole story because it began here. I learned something. Was something I learned to ask. And then this guy goes, the doctor, Clark Kent, I didn't expect to see you back so soon. I came to offer my condolences, Doc and Kate. I heard about the deaths in your special ward. Death? All the patients you saw yesterday are unchanged, Mr. Kent. See for yourself. And he goes, he's right. The radiation I detected in their bodies are still here, still keeping them alive. But I determined that radiation came from Sleaze. He fed on human misery and destruction of the human spirit, but somehow he gave off excess energy as pure life force. But that life force is what's keeping these old people alive. With Sleaze gone, I expected them to be dead. But if they're still alive, and thus we actually end right there. So I don't know if John Byrne had any plans before he left with this, but nothing from this came to fruition. So anyway, Action Comics 592 and 593 by John Byrne. I hope you enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun story. So like and subscribe, and I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.